Welcome to another video from cardboardeast.com. My name is Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. Welcome to the top 100 board games from Japan, part 5. Now, just like every other video in this series, I am giving away games from Asia. And today I'll be giving away Touch It from Wonderful World of Board Games. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll teach you how to win. Number 60, 9 Tiles Panic. Now, a long time ago, I took my entire Oink game collection, cut it in half, and then gave half away and kept the others. And 9 Tiles Panic was one that was easily in the keep file. I looked at it and instantly knew it's staying. Now, 9 Tiles Panic is a real-time game. It is a Men in Black themed game. So everyone has 9 tiles, and on that 9 tiles there will be roads in a city. And on various tiles there are going to be Men in Black, there are going to be aliens, there are going to be hamburgers because aliens like to eat hamburgers, there are going to be random dogs, and children playing without adults in the middle of an alien invasion. Every round, you're going to pull out 3 goal cards. And the goal cards are going to say something different, like number of agents on a road, or agents chasing aliens, aliens chasing burgers, children all by themselves, whatever, what have you. And then you're going to go. And then everyone's going to build a city using their 9 double-sided tiles and trying to create a city that logistically makes sense and without closed, looped roads. Once you're done, you take your piece, and then once everyone's done, you look and you score your cities according to the goal cards. Wash, rinse, repeat. Do that a number of times. Highest score wins the game. There's a lot of charm in this game. This theme really elevates this game. It could have been anything, but the Men in Black theme really, really works. I love how there's like a little alien as your counter. I love how there's a UFO on the score charts. I love the simplicity of the artwork here, and I love how approachable and fast it is. I typically don't like real-time games, but this one I really enjoy. And for a game that can play 2 to 5 players, this one is a real winner. I strongly recommend 9 Tiles Panic. Dungeon Addendum 8. Now, if you missed out on Dungeon Addendums 1 through 7, don't worry, most of those don't exist. Now, chances are you have already played this game. There was Dungeon Addendum, and then it got translated and picked up by the Western publishers and turned into Welcome to the Dungeon. And then Welcome to the Dungeon had an expansion. And so Dungeon Addendum 8 is Welcome to the Dungeon and there's expansion put into this tiny little box. Now, essentially, all of you are going to be different parts of the ego of one of the many heroes. You have like a princess, a minstrel, a ninja, a necromancer, a barbarian, and you're going to be standing there in a dungeon, and you're going to be kind of like bravadoing against each other, like, I can go in there without my shield, I can go there without my sword, I can go in there without my nanny, or whatever. And eventually you're disrobing in front of the dungeon, and eventually you're going to have to go in. Now, how that's played in game text is you're either drawing like a monster card, looking at it and playing it into the dungeon, making the dungeon even more dangerous, or you're disrobing your hero, making the dungeon even more difficult for your hero. And then a little bit of layers in gameplay like that, so you can see, oh, there's a vampire. I'm going to put the vampire in the dungeon. And that's okay because this hero is really good against vampires so long as he has that item. So I got to make sure he doesn't have that item. Or you can just peace out. I'm out. I'm not going in. And eventually everyone's going to pass except for one. And then you're kind of stuck going into the dungeon. And there's a lot of schadenfreude of just trying to enjoy how hilariously bad the hero goes through the dungeon. You're going to flip over each monster there one by one, and each monster is going to eat away at your life. And it's just like, oh, now you're at 10, now you're at 9. There's 4, you can beat the 4, you can beat the 5. Oh, my special ability allows me to kill this 3. And then, oh, you flip over, there's the 9 and the big dragon, and it kills you and you're dead. Or, if you're really lucky, you can get all the way to the dungeon and get the treasure. Now, if you get the treasure twice, you win the game. What I love most about this game is the bluffing. I love getting into other people's heads, and I like seeing people kind of be destroyed by monsters. But it's monsters that you designed. Like, you chose to put that monster in there. You chose to put that dragon in there. Dungeon of Mandem 8 is also really interesting because you get all these special monsters. Now, these special monsters, unfortunately, all have like Japanese on the cards, but they are all translated in the English rulebook, so it's a piece of cake. I kind of would have preferred if they did something that's a little bit more language independent for that. But you get a lot of bang for your buck with this tiny little box, and that is why it is my number 59. Fake Artist Goes to New York. Now, I know this is like the Oink Game Central here, but it's only just a few games. Oink makes a lot of great games, and I think they're one of the best publishers to keep an eye on. I love how their art design is always nice and neat, and that's why they're on this list a lot. Fake Artist Goes to New York is one of their older games, and it's also one of their best. Now, this is another party game, and I'm really picky about my party games, but this works well with this. This plays 2 to 4, this plays 5 to 10. Wow! Now, in A Fake Artist Goes to New York, one person is the game master and everyone else is an artist except for one person who's the faker. Now, the game master is going to say a category like vehicles, and then he's going to write down on all these little cards what that vehicle is. Like maybe bus, bus, bus. And then he's going to give everyone the whiteboards, and everyone's going to look at the whiteboard and say, oh, it's bus. Everyone's going to know what it is, except for the fake artist. He's going to look at it and it's nothing. And then each player is going to take like their own unique color of a marker and then draw one line of whatever they're drawing. And usually the fake artist is pretty good about hiding who they are. If they're the first person, it can kind of be tricky. Sometimes if they're in the middle, they will do something that's so blatantly obviously wrong, and it just becomes really, really funny. Because after the artist drawing, like everyone's trying to guess who the fake artist is. So it depends on that character and that fake artist, of like if they want to be really bold, if they want to be really safe, but they have to make sure whatever they're drawing makes sense. And it's really, really funny. And for a game that's simple, I can't recommend it enough. Now, my markers in here have long dried out, and I've kept them, and I have another set of markers that I keep for like a lot of my other older lights, and we use those instead. But man, is it great. The added benefit is that it comes with this pad of art, and you can kind of keep all the art that's in the game, and it becomes a nice little museum in here of all these great past gaming memories. Or you could just gift them to somebody and they can open it up and look in their wallet and suddenly remember the great time that they had gaming with you and all your friends. And that's why this makes an easy recommendation. Fake Artist Goes to New York. In Front of the Elevators by Sashi and Sashi. Now, if you're really curious about Sashi and Sashi, because he's a well-known publisher at this point, I made a video where I ranked all his games, except for his most recent one, which would be probably at the end of the list. Not because it's a bad game, but just because it's not as deep. In Front of the Elevators is a fantastic card game. I love how approachable this game is. Everyone, well, mostly everyone who lives near elevators is aware of like elevators and how you want to be the last person to get on the elevator, so that way you can be the first one off the elevator. And you have different family members. You have like a mom, dad, daughter, son, grandma, grandpa. And the charm of this game is that you're playing cards into 3 different elevators. Some elevators are more geared for mom and grandma, like one's like dad and grandpa, and one is just for the kids. And you'll score points. So the first person to get in the elevator is like 2, 2, and then 3, and then 5 points. So you want to get like that 3rd or 4th place. And what makes the game interesting though is that each family member can cut in front of others. So like the wife cuts in front of the husband, the daughter cuts in front of the son, grandma cuts in front of grandpa. And it's really interesting to kind of cut your head and then push everyone else towards the end of the line. Now there's a little girl, and the little girl plays a little bit differently. She just jumps in the line, and she can't be by herself. No, no, no. So she jumps in the line, and the green mother or whoever is green matching the color goes to the end of the line to look after the little girl. But the best rule of this game is the cafe rule, where if you put 3 of the same family member in a line, it's like Bob, Tom, Jim, oh my gosh, it's been so long, and they all get drunk together in a cafe somewhere and just leave the line. You score some points with that, but it's just this funny little rule that just happens to be in the game. That nice little wrinkle adds surprisingly a lot. Now, this game does play 2 to 4. I don't really recommend it at 2 because you're kind of double playing with different families. I think 3 and 4, it plays the best. In addition to that, this game didn't have to be, but it is colorblind friendly. And it's a real thumbs up for me because there are some people in my game group that are colorblind. So this is a game that I really like to pull out. It plays in like 30 minutes. It's really fast, really approachable. Really enjoy it. Big thumbs up. In Front of the Elevators. Let's make a bust out the dice game. Now, I'm one of these odd people who like the dice game more than the original game. And there's a lot of reasons why. Now, while the original game can play up to 4 players, this is strictly a 1 to 2 player game. And if you ask me, it really shines at both those player counts. What I do like about this is that the original game only came with 1 map, just 1. And now naturally Get On Board, which most people might know, came with 2 maps, but that was mostly for player count. Like if you have more players, then the map is bigger and more expansive. If you want some more room with the lower player counts, you could totally do that too. Let's Make a Bust Out the dice game comes with 2 maps. So you have your standard Kyoto map, because that's where Sashi's from. Or it also has a Mars map, which is just kind of wonky. Like you could exit one corner and magically appear in the other corner. And some people had problems with that. I didn't. I thought it's fun. Don't you want fun in your games? But essentially in this game, you're just rolling dice, looking at the dice, and deciding how you're going to move your bus, and then marking down the passengers that you pick up. And it has this really nice balance of set collection and route building. And that's the reason why I love this game. And I love the fact that, unlike a lot of other roll and writes, all the players share the same boards. You're both drawing your routes on the same board in this weird Tron cycle way where you don't want to cross each other because you'll get traffic, and traffic's negative points, and it becomes this fun, quirky little puzzle for you to solve. One of the other reasons why I like this more than the regular game is that there's technology, and you can slowly roll dice and build up your technology so that way you can mitigate those dice and have really powerful turns later on in the later rounds of the game. Now, this other thing is quite interesting because you play it twice. You play it once with the blue, and then you play again with the red, or vice versa. And you get to keep the tech that you unlocked the first time you play the game. It has this extra layers of the game where I want to get a tech so that way I can have an easier time scoring more points in the second round. But at the same time, I don't want to draw my first route in such a way that it makes the second time I play the game even more difficult. So there are all these layers that you're thinking as you're playing the game. And I really appreciate that extra depth there. Now, I don't know what this little 1 here means. I hope it means we're going to have more of these games or more maps, because I definitely want to see more in this series. Ooh, Master of Respect. Wow, just wow. Like I could just go on and on about this game, but it is wow. The only bad thing I could say about this game is it plays only 3 to 5 players, and I think it plays great from 3 to 5. I think it's probably better at 4, but there are some 2-player variants out there, and I've tried them, and I just don't like them. You really need that full complement, and there's just a lot to go on about this game. Like, 1, this game is fast. It plays like 35 minutes to 60 minutes, and if anyone's played this game before, you could probably knock it out in 30 minutes, because it is just very, very clean that way. In Master of Respect, you are one of the 5 Kung Fu masters. You have these students, and you have these action tiles. You're going to put this player shield in front of you, and you're going to be assigning your action tiles, which can be rotated because they're double-sided, onto the students. And each student is coded, so each master gets 3 students. You have a male and a female, and Chub Chub, he's kind of chubby. I don't mean to fat shame. We just always call him Chub Chub. He looks really cute. I like him. The boy and girl are kind of coded to that master, and then the Chub Chub is just random. He's like they're all same in the front, and then you're mixed and divided amongst the masters, and they all have different things on the back. So you can also upgrade your students. You can spend resources to upgrade your students. You can tell your students to go get sake, to go get gold, or you can send them into the tournament. And when you send them to a tournament, they fight against all the other students, and whoever wins gets even more respect. And I find this very simple system to be really, really fun. On top of that is that you can get more students. Instead of just having your standard 3 and you can upgrade them to even more powerful students, you can just get more students who do even more things. And you might get them in their base mode, and they give you negative points, but then you upgrade them and they become ultra powerful and worth even more points towards the end of the game. If you don't like your standard action tiles, well, guess what? You could buy more. I can use them, and you're slowly getting more and more powerful. You're upgrading your students. The students are getting even stronger. And to add an extra little wrinkle into the game is you can follow other players' actions. So maybe he's upgrading students. Maybe he's getting sake, and I want to do that. Well, in order to do that, you got to give them half a point. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it does add up. So if you're going to follow someone, and you need to, because otherwise you will lose the game, you have to be really sure. Like, do I really want to follow, and do I really want to follow right now? But what's most impressive is that all the 5 masters all play differently. Like, one kind of goes more for gold, one kind of goes more for sake, and none of it feels like overpowered. They all feel to kind of balance each other out. And it allows you to replay the game multiple times, trying a different master each time, and each time you get different students. So there's a lot to enjoy in this game. And I'm blown away that it plays in under an hour, because Wow. Now, the good news is that if you really want to play it at 2, there is a new 2-player version out that's strictly just for 2 players. And I haven't played it enough. I played it a few times and I like what I see so far, but I want to play more so I can have a better idea and a stronger opinions to tell you all about it. So you won't see this on this year's list, but you will definitely see this one. Master Respect, great game. Give it a try. Ooh, Forest of Tataraba. Wow, oh wow. Forest of Tataraba is a pretty game. Now, Forest of Tataraba has a really unique theme. You're all tree farmers, loggers, and you are planting trees, letting them grow, and then cutting them down to get resources. Now, the trick is that you don't want to wait too long, because if they grow too much, they get too big and they become evergreens and they stay there clogging up the map, getting in everyone's way. What I love about this is I love the table presence. Every time I'm taking this game out, there's so many big, chunky, beautiful wooden components that everyone's just wondering, what is that game? I've never seen a game like that before. And they're right. I had never seen a game like this before. I love seeing all the different colorful trees spread all across the map. Now, as a player, you want to make sure that you're putting your trees in as many different locations as you can, because you roll the dice and then that area grows. But the trick is you don't want to keep your trees too far away. You want to keep it kind of close, so that way you could chop down multiple trees on the same turn. Walk, chop, walk, plant. And I love how you can plant trees and block your opponents so that they kind of have to walk around. And sometimes you can plant too many trees in one area and then it just gets overgrown and you're just tearing your hair out going, what have I done? But I love how gorgeous this game is. I love all the wooden components. You typically don't see that with a lot of small doujin games, but Hobby Japan is one of these bigger publishers out of Japan, and they just pick up these doujin games, make them look really, really pretty, and Forest of Tataraba is definitely one that you should play. Now, normally when you talk of board games from Japan, you're thinking of these small box, weird themes, quirky, approachable, fun games that you could typically toss to a backpack. And for the most part, you would be right. But no gaming culture is a monolith, and Japan is home to some of my favorite war games. Ooh. Greater East Asia, Co-Prosperity Sphere, War in Asia and the Pacific, 1939 to 1984. Wow, is that title a mouthful? But wow, is it an amazing game. Now, there are a lot of games about the Pacific Theater, World War II Pacific Theater out there, and some of them are really big destination games. They take up the whole day, and you're there, and they're great. Hex Encounter games, I've played some, I love some, absolutely fun. But now that I'm older and I'm a little bit busier, I tend to think, well, can I play those? Or can I just play this in 90 to 120 minutes and knock it out? And still be hit with all these really interesting decisions. Now, I've seen on BGG, people have talked about how this is like Go, and to an extent, it's kind of like that, because Go is an area control game where throughout the game, you're kind of slowly defining the borders of your territory. And maybe you want to push a little bit to push that border up, hoping that the opponent can't cut you off and increase their border. And that's essentially what you're doing in this game. In addition to that, I like to think of this game as like a tower game where you are Japan and you're holding the fort. You really don't win the game. You just kind of outlast America's onslaught. What's really interesting about this tower feeling is that none of the resources you need are in the tower. So you need to go out to the tower and try to hold off the best way you can. You got to go to China. You got to get at least one of those cities. You want oil? Then you got to get to Borneo as soon as you can. Now, an extra layer on top of that is the card mechanic, and I find this to be one of my favorite parts of the game. You get your own deck of cards. Like Japan has 8 and America has 16. Wow. And you're going to look at your production and you play any card that you want. Any of them. And your opponent can do the same. And it becomes this really interesting bluffing mind game of trying to get into your opponent. What makes it work is that all your forces are fragile, meaning that it's really silly to put all your forces in one stack and move it along, because everything else is unprotected. So you got to sprinkle your forces around the map. But that means that everything is kind of in this fragile state, and maybe you got an airplane to protect your adjacent areas. But your opponent is also doing the same. And so you're thinking to yourself as you're playing cards one at a time, like, am I going to defend against his possible future attack, or should I attack now somewhere else where he's weaker and then catch him off balance? And it gets into this weird, fun mind game that only lasts a few years, or a few rounds. Like, should I say like a few rounds, because each round is a year of play. Now, this game is incredibly difficult to find. This is the English version of a magazine that was printed like many years ago. Thankfully, the designer, Yasushi Nakaguro, he has his own publisher called Bonsai Games, and they have a new release of this. It's all in Japanese though, but there is a really active community on BGG that asks all these questions about what you can and can't do about this game and how to translate all the cards. So there is an active community out there that is going to be out there to help you. If you can find a copy of this game, I really strongly recommend you get it because it is a fantastic little puzzle and one of my favorite war games. Rising Sun. No, we're not done. We're not done talking about war games because Rising Sun, the first Sino-Japanese War, 1894 to 1895, is a whopper. Now, most of the Bonsai games come in these nice little small boxes that fit into your backpack. And they're all CDGs, card-driven games. So a lot of decisions that you make are driven by the cards that you play. And I really like that system. Now, this is one of the easier Bonsai games to get. All the cards have been translated. And look, what I've done is I just sleeved all my cards and I put the translation above it, so therefore I can just play the game. And this game has so much. It has war battles, it has epic sea battles, and it has really fun, interesting card play that adds so much flavor to the game. Now, the fun of this game is that I love how it's asymmetrical in the sense that Japan has this little tiny armed forces where like all your gunboats are all modern, really pack a punch, and they're really strong. And you have very few infantry units, but they're all really strong. As opposed to China with a massive fleet and a massive amounts of armies and tons of land for Japan to somehow conquer. And I love how you get into this mind game. Now, the infantry can slowly move around the land. You kind of see that and you kind of predict where you go. But the Navy boats just, they can just appear anywhere. And wow, is it exciting. Now, the rule books are kind of like what you see in the war games world, where it's pretty detailed, a little bit denser than you would expect. But for what comes in this little box, and for only 90 minutes of play, there is a lot of depth, a lot of great back and forth, and a lot of surprise, amazing moments in this game. I can't recommend Rising Sun enough. One of my favorite war games from Asia. Twin Princes. Now, number 51, the best of the first half of the top 100 is Twin Princes. Now, this is the Reborn edition. This is the second edition. I've never played the first edition, but why would I when the second edition is so beautiful? This is like 1001 Arabian Nights theme, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the artwork. I love how simple and clear it is. The UI is spectacular. But what I love most about it is that it's another game of I cut, you choose. Now, this little game is a little bit longer than you think. It's 10 rounds of play, but you could typically get that in under 30 minutes. And it's divided into two halves. The first half is one player will take the cards and divide them up into two halves, and then one player will choose which ones to play, and then you take turns playing cards. And similar to a lot of games like Battle Line, where you have all these areas that you're fighting over, and you're playing cards to different ones. So some cards can be played in A, some cards can play in swords, and you're slowly trying to build up forces on those areas and try to win. Because at the end of the game, these side areas are going to be worth 5 points, and the palace is going to be worth 8. Now, I love the theme of this game. I love the artwork. It is just absolutely a joy to look and drink in. And I love how you can play cards in the East, play cards in the West. Each card gives you options of where you can play it. And you know what cards your opponent has, but you don't know the order that they're going to play it in. And it adds this really interesting layer to the game. And I love the I cut, you choose mechanic, because you can have one card that the opponent really wants and they kind of cram it with all these little wasteful cards. So it really gets into your opponent's mind. And I love the genie. The genie can be any one of these three. You get like these three little cards here. It could be worth more points. Allows you some extra special features to give some more variety into the game. You also have your prince who can move around the board. And you need to move your prince. He's going to help you, and you need the prince at a certain place at a certain time at the end of the game to score even more points. And what I really like about this game is the actual layers, because you will see all the cards. You will see all the cards in the deck, and they will all come out, but you don't know the order. And you kind of get to the rhythm where you kind of remember, like, okay, the king has to come out, the queen has to come out, the elephant has to come out. I got to prepare for this. Oh, there's a genie card coming. I got to make sure that at least I get one of those, so that way the opponent gets the other, and it's not too overpowered. And you kind of have to map that out in your head. And I really, really like that. And I like how it kind of unfolds this story of the game. And at the end of the game, you flip all the locations over, you see who has the most points, and whoever has the most points becomes the next ruler of the land. And the other twin prince decides, okay, you get the palace, and I go on a magic carpet ride adventure. And I don't really know who's the actual winner there. But Twin Prince's Reborn Edition is gorgeous to look at. Really small box game. Doesn't even really need to fit in this box. You can fit it into an even smaller box. But I love the artwork too much. I like two-player games that have layers and a little bit of depth to them, and that's what Twin Princes brings. I love this game a lot. At number 51 of the top 100 board games from Japan. Now, as promised in every one of these videos in this series, I'm giving away games from Asia. In this video, I'm giving away Touch It from Wonderful World Board Games. They came out with 3 different versions. They came out with the traditional Chinese version, they came with the Japanese version, and they came out with kids, with animals, and actually it's the hardest one. If you'd like to register to win these games, hit the link below, fill out the form, fill out a quick questionnaire, and that's it. You're done. I will reach out to you and let you know if you win, and then I'll be mailing these to you. Whew. We are halfway done with our list. We did 50 games from Japan, and there are 50 more. Now, I really enjoyed the 50 games so far, but the next 50 are just really, really good, and I can't wait to tell you about them. Once again, gamers, my name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. I'm going to put some links here, some videos that I think you'll enjoy. See you there.